Welcome to Cal State Fullerton's The Report with the latest news, views, and info to go. I'm Lena Agulian.
I'm Sarah Fenton.
I'm Hibba Berry.
And I'm Evan Boydston.
Today we will start by discussing some hot topics, including Operation Boo, a viral video of a student being forcibly pulled from her desk, and the everlasting struggle of finding parking on campus.
Beyond our discussion, we have reports on current campus events, including the upcoming Dia de los Muertos event and the new network to connect students and alumni across Cal State campuses.
And finally, we conclude with local and national news about the new Speaker of the House, this week's GOP debate, and the closing of the Costa Mesa Motor Inn.
But first, we'll begin with our segment called Hot Topics.
Since Halloween is coming up, we all decided to dress up for this episode of The Report, so we'll be discussing our fun costumes today. My costume is Wednesday Addams. My inspiration was I need a last-minute costume that I'll have to pay for, and everybody loves the Addams Family, so that's what I'm going for today.
Oh, that's what you're going for? Oh. Sorry. Well, I'm a cheeseburger, so...
Oh, is that what you're going for? I couldn't tell.
So subtle.
Not cheesy at all.
No.
Yeah,
and I'm just a referee. Something easy, quick, DIY.
And I'm a trap queen. So if you don't know what that is,
Show me your traps. You have to show
Yeah, my mouse traps. I put some mouse traps on here. If you don't know, it's really heavy. But this was a last-minute costume. I got the inspiration. Demi Lovato did an interview the other day, and I was like, I have to do this. So I got a cape, got some mouse traps, put it on there. So Trap Queen is from the song by Fetty Wap, if you didn't know that. And I thought, why not make it a literal punny approach to the Trap Queen?
Did you have to, buy? How did you find
I
all
did.
these?
So I went to Walmart, and they had, bags of 4 for under $2. So I got, a bunch of bags, and I got the weirdest looks walking through Walmart with handfuls of bags of mouse traps. I got an infestation, but...
You have a major mouse problem.
Major,
yeah.
But it works. I mean, it was last minute, so if you need a costume idea, all you need is a cape and some mouse traps, and you're good to go. Crown.
I just want to be a cheeseburger, so... So I am.
Proud of you. After 21 years in service, Operation Boo, a program designed to keep children safe while they go out and trick or treat, is being contested in the courts. The lawsuit, filed by a San Diego man who is a previous sex offender, says the sign he is forced to display, which reads, "We do not participate in trick or treating," violates his civil rights, and he says, quote, "It is unconstitutional to force sex offenders to put signs in their doors," end quote. Operation Boo also requires offenders to be home by 5 p.m. and states that they cannot decorate their home, make candy offerings, or have their lights on. Another provision states the only time offenders are allowed to open their doors is to probation officers. What do you guys think? Is Operation Boo unconstitutional, or does it serve a public service?
I think they
that's
should
good,
have to.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not unconstitutional. They are sex offenders for whatever reason why. I would not want, if I had a child, going up to a sex offender's door. So the fact that they would have to put that sign up, at least it doesn't say, "Oh, I'm a sex offender, don't come up." It says we just don't participate in trick-or-treating.
That just seems so backwards for them to say that that's unconstitutional to put the signs up saying... That's just so backwards because they're the sex offender. They're the ones that broke the law. And they're the one. I just don't get that.
They're being
blows my
they're
mind
like
right
hypocrites for saying that.
Yeah.
Because they did a crime and people need to be protected. I mean,
Yeah,
and they're just kids.
It's all about keeping the children safe. That's one of the major things that government's always trying to focus on. So, and I agree. It is just a sign, and it's not blatantly stating what they are, even though you can kind of assume.
Figure it out.
But I think it's just for the children to be safe. I mean,
Halloween is already scary enough as it is. You're going up to strangers' doors and asking for candy.
Yeah.
So if you can limit, take sex offenders out of that, then I guess it makes it a little safer. Yeah. But I think they definitely should have a sign up. It's not unconstitutional. You're a registered sex offender.
Yes.
You have
if you can't do the time, then don't do the crime. So
Basically.
I think the only thing he has is we in our First Amendment, we don't have to have compelled speech, so we can don't have to say things we don't want to say, which I guess can sort of fall under that, but I don't think that's...
When you break the law, you know you
have to pay the
have to give up
price.
your rights
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Either way, they should just have to sign up.
Mm-hmm.
Last Friday, Cal State Fullerton held a grievance hearing for Professor Elaine Bourget. Bourget, a math professor here at Cal State Fullerton, was reprimanded for failing to use the department-assigned textbook. At the center of the issue is whether or not professors should have the choice of utilizing a book they feel works best for teaching their students or one their department has signed off on. Bourget argued that there was no clear policy preventing him from using a different book, and in a show of support, 70 faculty members signed a letter in favor of Bourget's decision. The math department ruled in 1984 that one book was to be used across all Math 250B section classes, and 199 the department began using a textbook co-authored by both the department chair and vice chair. The price for the department-approved textbook is $180 at the campus bookstore, whereas the book that Bourget chose costs $76. So, should professors be required to use an approved book for their classes, or should they be free to choose what best suits their teaching style? Was Professor Bourget wrong in choosing to use a cheaper and yet still effective textbook?
I mean, to me, this is a lot of politics. Personally, as a college student, I would obviously like to use the cheaper textbook, since textbooks add up, can get really expensive. And I think it's just a little iffy that he was fired for not using that book. I just feel like there's a lot of shady things going on with that.
Well, and the professor is going to teach significantly better if he can use the book that he feels the most comfortable teaching, the one that's aligned with his teaching method and whatnot. So I think that I think that's ridiculous that he got in trouble and reprimanded for teaching, because he's still teaching. Like, the students, I know the students they like that professor, and they know he does a good job teaching. I also had a professor who got in trouble for not using the textbook. This was a few years ago. He got in trouble, but he was a great teacher, and I learned so much from his class. And then I told all my friends to take him, and then his teaching method was completely changed, and his attitude about teaching was a little bit different too, what I noticed. It's just, there's a lot of things going on here, and especially since the department heads were co-authors to the
That's why
book.
I think it's a little...
I can see where they're coming from. Using the same textbook throughout all the same classes, because you want every student that's taking this class to get the same material and the same information. So I see using a different textbook could go against that. And I did hear that he petitioned before to try to get this book to be the book used for all the classes. That didn't go through, so he decided to use it for his class. And he did get in trouble. He's saying that it wasn't a clear policy that was stated, which is why he used the book. But as a college student, you're looking for the cheapest textbook. And when you have to buy books, especially one that's required for a math class. I remember when I took a class, I had to buy the workbook that the head of the department wrote, and that was over $100. And if you didn't buy it,
and it's just paper.
You wouldn't pass the class.
It was just like
it was with like the information. Like math is math. At the end of the day, if it's all the same class, it has to be the same formulas. So I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like it would be the same. I guess maybe it's when they're teaching the certain things, like because you can rearrange chapters. Like, I know my old professor, he would skip ahead and be like, "Oh, we don't have to learn this," but maybe the department says like, "No, you have to."
Right.
And $180, that's so much money for one book.
Yeah,
that's
math and
crazy.
science books, they just get way too pricey.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think even the state was saying that the Cal States and the UC should look into getting the cheapest textbook, but the best one.
Yeah.
To save students
Find
money.
the happy medium. Like, obviously, it's going to be, it might not be the cheapest, but it'll be the most effective, but still.
And, 180 is one book. If you're taking 4 classes...
Oh, that adds up. Yeah. Especially if you're an engineering major, they are the ones that have to take that class or those classes. So they already have to have so many math and science books anyway. So.
By now, we've all seen the video in which a South Carolina student is being forcibly removed from her chair by a school police officer. The officer was responding to what the school administration has described as a class disruption involving a student texting during class. The sheriff said the student should also have been arrested on a charge of disturbing the school and should be held accountable for her actions. The girl's teacher and administrator said they feel that the officer acted appropriately. The sheriff also stated the quote, "She was very disruptive, she was very disrespectful, and she started this whole incident," end quote. The officer has since been fired from his position while he is under investigation. Is this violence justified? Was the student being so disruptive that she had to be pulled out of her chair like that? Or is this just another case of a long line of officers overusing their abuse of force?
I think it's just a tough situation. I don't think he should have been called in the first place if it was for texting. That's the teacher's position to either allow her to continue texting because she's not going to get anything out of the class then, or it's up to the teacher to say, hey, stop texting. It should not have involved a police officer. But if you listen to the audio, he did say something where he's had a run-in with her before and she's had problems before. I do think it was a little excess force that he was using.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course.
But
excess force, but it was just definitely a bad combination of things going on because I'm assuming since they did call the police, then she's probably an out of control student, especially if she's had run-ins already. So it's just a bad combination. It didn't have to be handled that way, but it definitely needed to be brought attention to, but maybe not the police officer. So and then now everything is just spiraling out of control now.
I feel like when I was watching the video, it did seem like it came out of nowhere when he pulled her out of the chair. Like I feel like she was
context
just
is
sitting
everything,
there.
though.
Yeah. So when you see it, it looks really, really bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, no matter what, like no high school student I think should ever be treated like that. No matter what they're like, that's
and
just
even
excessive.
if they did do something bad, there's no way that person should have acted like the way he did. No way it should be handled like that.
Yeah, it was handled really poorly. And
Yes.
it's hard to watch. And I try to put myself in that position if I were in that classroom or if I was her to be handled like that. I don't think it's okay.
it's tough. There was another video that just came out right after that went viral of a student who got his cell phone taken away by his teacher who was in his 60s. So the student actually attacked the teacher and like wrestled him to the floor to get his cell phone back. So it's just like, it's a tough situation to be in because now you have an older teacher being tackled to the floor because the student's taking his cell phone back.
To me, that's more obviously disruptive. We haven't seen how she's been obviously disruptive, but, you know, that's a different story too.
Parking is probably one of the most grueling things students look forward to when they arrive on campus. Even with 3 structures and stacked valet parking services available at lots A, E, and G, it's still a nightmare. The one thing we expect is courtesy from each other when dealing with this issue. Let's face it, we've all had our moments. We circle around and wait for a space to open. But what happens when someone sits or drives down the middle of the narrow lane? Or when someone sits in their car without informing you that they're killing time in between classes? Or worst of all, when someone cuts you off and takes the spot you've been waiting for? Is there a way we can alleviate the parking woes on campus? Is there a better way of waiting for parking other than the ways students have come up with on their own? And at what point should the school step in to help with this problem?
We need a new structure.
Oh yeah, especially since we're one of the biggest Cal
It's-
States. We need definitely more. I mean, they're spending so much money on like the TSU and things like that.
Yeah.
And you know, like those are great, but that's just another way for them to hike up prices because like, oh, you have a flashy school, you have a nice school, then it's just another thing for them to raise price on. But when really we need like infrastructure, we need more parking spaces because this is absolutely ridiculous.
If they want to build the campus and build the population and the students, you need more parking spots. The problem is not how far you have to park. I think we're all fine with walking for a little bit, but the problem is finding that spot. We will circle around, and the lack of etiquette when you're actually trying to find a spot of people sitting in the middle of the aisle or taking a parking spot. That's the worst. Like, horrible.
Thankfully, I live right off campus, so I don't even know what
I
you guys
haven't
are talking
had
about.
to
Stroll over here.
I haven't had to park at this campus. Luckily, I know how lucky I am.
It's bad.
I've heard it's terrible. So I feel like that's the only solution is to build another structure because what else are they going to be able to do?
Take one of the lots that we have and build up. That's it. That's the only thing we need to do. We don't need a flat lot because that's a waste of land. If you take a lot and build up, you have more spots, and then if they want to grow the population and take more students in, then they can do that. But as of right now, if they don't build another structure and they take more students in, parking is going to be so bad.
I mean, it's 40,000 students.
Yeah, that's
where
crazy.
are they all going to fit?
And it's such a commuter-heavy school.
Yes.
So they need more parking.
I think they need to get rid of that lot right next to College Park because that's already a smaller lot. So if they got rid of that, that's only a few hundred spaces that people would have to find. But then that they can build that little section up and then hopefully make the parking structure look nice. Because parking structures look ugly. So but yeah.
According to a CSU public affairs statement online, a new service will now help students and alumni of the California State University's 23 campuses gain access to new state-of-the-art online network for professional development. The Cal State system signed with Portfolium, a cloud-based network that will provide alumni and students with the opportunity to showcase the skills and accomplishments in online portfolios. The partnership will give students and alumni access to the unique social networking site, which allows them to connect with employers, alumni, and current students.
Keeping in tow with our Halloween theme, the CSUF Dia de los Muertos festivals are scheduled for Wednesday, November 4th on the main quad. The celebration begins at 10:30 a.m. with a procession, and there will be a mariachi at 1 p.m. as well as danza azteca, and the day will conclude with a candlelight vigil at 7 p.m. So go out and get face painted into a creepy calavera and enjoy the festivities.
The Costa Mesa Planning Commission has proposed to demolish the Costa Mesa Motor Inn. A number of families that have called the inn home for years have filed a lawsuit pushing for an injunction to keep the owner from forcing them out. A resident said, quote, "It's the only thing we can afford right now, and we're trying to look for a place right now, but everything is so expensive," end quote. However, an Orange County judge ruled on Monday in favor of enforcing a 30-day limit to stays at the motel. The City Planning Commission previously approved the owner's plan to tear down the Motor Inn and build a luxury apartment complex. Costa Mesa Mayor Jim Regemeyer, who led the vote, said, quote, "We care about the people more than they might realize, and the city is working with nonprofit partners to look for long-term housing options," end quote.
GOP candidates had their third debate Wednesday night in Colorado. Leading the charge against the moderators were Senator Ted Cruz, who attacked the first round of questions from the moderators, saying the questions were incorrectly phrased towards each candidate. However, Senator Marco Rubio defended himself well when his voting record was called into question against Jeb Bush, and Rubio also levied the heaviest statement saying, quote, "The Democrats have the ultimate super PAC. It's called the mainstream media," end quote. The big winner of the night seemed to be Senator Rubio, and while the biggest losers seemed to be Ben Carson and Donald Trump, the two still lead the race in the polls.
Representative Paul Ryan was elected the 54th Speaker of the House, replacing Representative John Boehner. Boehner gave his farewell address before the vote on Thursday after he got the House to approve a significant budget deal. This legislation will be a key factor to eliminate the possibility of a default and decreases a chance of a future government shutdown. Ryan won the vote with a comfortable margin of victory, gaining support from some hardliners who worked hard to oust Boehner. In his first words as Speaker, he said, quote, "Let's be frank, the House is broken. We are not settling scores. We are wiping the slate clean," end quote. And while he expects cooperation, he also warns that he expects their support.
According to forecasters at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Prediction Center, they issued a U.S. winter outlook favoring cooler and wetter weather in southern tier states with above average temperatures, most likely in the west and across the northern tier. This year's El Nino, among the strongest on record, is expected to influence weather and climate patterns this winter by impacting the position of the Pacific Jet Stream. Mike Halpert, Deputy Director at NOAA's Climate Prediction Center, said, quote, "A strong El Nino is in place and should exert a strong influence over our weather this winter. And while temperature and precipitation impacts associated with El Nino are favored, El Nino is not the only player. Cold air outbreaks and snowstorms will likely occur at times this winter. However, the frequency, number, and intensity of these events cannot be predicted on a seasonal time scale. Weather includes the Arctic Oscillation, which influences the number of Arctic air masses that penetrated into the south and nor'easters on the east coast, and the Madden-Julian Oscillation, which can impact the number of heavy rainstorms in the Pacific Northwest."
It's that time of the year, Titans, where we gain a little bit of sleep but lose some daylight. Clocks will be moving back an hour on Sunday morning at 2 a.m., so don't forget to set your microwave clocks back, but don't worry about your phones. They make the change automatically. Well, that's all we have on this edition of The Report. Join us next time for more up-to-date news, views, and info to go. Thank you. I'm Lena Agulian.
I'm Sarah Fenton.
I'm Hiba Berry.
And I'm Evan Boydston. Stay fresh, Fullerton.